Macrobiotic nutritionist. Welcome, Ms. Sabherwal.
Thank you.
And it's with immense pleasure I welcome Ms. Janvi Mehta, an actor, a health and fitness freak, and a moderator for today's session. Welcome, Janvi.
Hi, thank you.
I also welcome all our members and our past chairpersons who've been our pillars of strength. I now invite our senior vice chairperson, Ms. Nandita Manshao, and also the day chair for today's event to please say a few words.
Unmute.
We can hear you.
Yeah. Hello, FLO family. A woman is the full circle. Within her is the power to create, nurture, and transform. FLO is all about women power. With over 37 years of experience, FLO has been promoting entrepreneurship and professional excellence among women through workshops, seminars, conferences, training, and capacity building programs, etc. In this day and age, transformation and innovation is the mantra. While we see tangible products as a result of this innovation in the fields of engineering, IT, strategic business models, etc., who would think of this very niche and specialized field of nutrition, a macrobiotic nutritionist? It took me some time and research to find out what exactly our dear guest today does in this field. I admit that I'm still a bit confused. It will be very interesting to hear her from her notions of functional medicine and lifestyle medicine. Her belief in the concept of one peaceful world is nearly mystical, which really takes the art of eating to a kind of a spiritual level. It is perhaps this belief that has prompted her to launch her own brand by the name of Soul Foods. Ladies, I'm sure after today's session, we will look more closely at our favorite theplas and undhiyu and make drastic changes in our food habits. We have much to hear from her. May I now request Ms. Janvi Mehta to open the conversation with the charming and radiant Ms. Shonali Sabherwal. Thank you for being with us, Shonali.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Shonali.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thank you.
May I request Kiran to introduce?
Yeah, I think before we begin, both of them deserve a good introduction. So I guess I'll begin speaking about balance. You all know balance is essential in our daily rituals, just like we need balance in sleeping, exercising, and even eating. It's just not about how we eat, it's also about how much we eat. Ms. Shonali Sabherwal's book, The Beauty Diet, Eat Your Way to a Fab New, advocates eating to make you look good. The next book was authored by her in 2014, The Love Diet, that emphasizes on the importance of food making one more loving, caring, and happy. Later again in 2017, she authored her third book, The Detox Diet, that sheds light on the importance of gut health and ways to improve it. I'm sure she will take us through the yin and yang in food and steer us to a path of a healthier lifestyle with a focus of building immunity. And before we begin today's session with Ms. Janvi Mehta, our beautiful moderator who has been a part of production team for several movies like Gully Boy, Veere De Wedding, Made in Heaven, I would like to invite our dynamic FLO Ahmedabad chair, Ms. Taruna Patel, to please start today's session.
Good evening, everyone, and hi, Shonali. Really nice to have you on board today.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to your session today, of course, with an insight into your principles of macrobiotics, a way of life. So it's a balanced approach to nutrition and using food as medicine. Shonali, your whole approach is aimed at strengthening the gut.
Yes.
So which is a straight road to healthy way of living.
Yes.
And the theory of detoxifying the gut.
Yes.
Which is the tract. And this is the tube that starts from the mouth and goes all the way to the end of the back of the passage, the anus. So it's a job, its job is to take in all the food, digest it, absorb its nutrients, and then expel the waste. So my question to you is, how does one know the strength and weaknesses of one's gut? And with your approach of a macrobiotic way, how to make the changes for a healthy gut and healthy way of living? And, with your favorite tagline, using food as the medicine. So let's hear about it. And I'm sorry, I'm at a place where the signals go on and off, so I may be on the screen and off the screen. I'm in a very far away, God-forsaken place. Not God-forsaken, it's a beautiful place. But I'm going to miss if I get disconnected, but I will catch up with you. And I'm really looking forward to listening to you, because I've read a lot about your prophecies and also your practices. And it's an honor to have you on our stage, where we have 8,000 FLO members, pan-India, with 17 chapters. And I'm sure, even if they are not checked in today, we will make sure that they catch up with your YouTube session of today's. So welcome again, Shonali, and I will let you answer this question and hand over to Janvi. Hi, Janvi.
Hi, Auntie.
Thank you. Please go ahead, Shonali.
So, a little bit about why I started, because I like setting the context in place, because it kind of gives people an idea of what attracted me to the field in the first place. I was in a hardcore corporate industry in the market research business, rising up the corporate ladder, and my dad goes and gets stage 4 prostate cancer. And in stage 4, in males, the prostate, the cancer escapes the gland. So it goes beyond the gland and it goes into the bones and the lymph nodes. So obviously, desperate as I was as the oldest child, and of course, all of us were worried, I started looking for alternative approaches. Everybody asks me this question, why didn't I go to Ayurveda? But Ayurvedic diet seems to have been lost in the whole maze of the way, Indians are teaching it. And I just reached out to whoever I could. And then there was this guy, a very famous doctor, who wrote this book called Recall by Life. And he was a practicing doctor in the United States. Same cancer as my father, and had kept down his cancer for 10 years with the macrobiotic diet. So that kind of motivated me to take it up and contact people and, the required people in America, because this diet is actually Japanese in origin, and it goes back to a zone, an island called Okinawa, which is a blue zone. A blue zone is a zone which is considered to be a healthy zone. And the diet kind of takes its spinnings from there. And then the guy who evolved it out of, his own theory, because he cured himself of tuberculosis, came to India and studied the Charak Samhita, which is our Ayurvedic text. And then he decided, okay, the worst people right now who are eating on the planet are the Americans. So let's go there and let's start teaching it in, small homes and in the littlest way possible. So a team of 5 went from Japan to America to start the movement there. So for me, it was reading the book that brought me to it, because Dr. Anthony Sartolaro's book had written about how he had cured the cancer, and for a diet to make the tall claim of curing a cancer was very fascinating for me. I didn't know at that time. I was a kid who'd grown up with digestive issues in a Punjabi home, having a lot of milk, having a lot of meat, because my father was a non-vegetarian, which I kicked up later on in my life. And I myself had something called Candida. Candida is a negative bacteria which grows in your system and then keeps growing as time moves on. So for me, in my 20s, it was very difficult to knock off any weight. And everywhere I went for an answer, dietitians would give you this formula that they had. Someone said, eat a lot of cheese. Someone said, balance your protein, carbohydrates, and fat. Someone said, eat every 2 hours. So everybody had their own formula, but their formulas were more calorie based and they were not talking about anything else. But when I finally contacted the authorities, they said, look, there's a lady in Dehradun. She teaches this, you can go and learn it from her, learn how to Indianize the whole approach, and then come to us if it works, for you guys. So Mummy and we went down to Dehradun. We started studying, and I started studying the diet a little bit. And at that time, as I said, I was still very hardcore corporate. But I was always asking the universe, because I was already on a path of Vipassana meditation. So I believed in the energy of the universe. I believe that, there's a bigger force than all of us. I used to keep saying, look, this is not my path. I need to know what my path is, so point it out to me. I kept asking the universe, give me that calling, And sitting in Mona's room, I kind of read through all the research and literature of the macrobiotic approach, which claimed that it had kept up to 200 diseases down with the approach, and up to 200 different conditions, not just cancer, but fibromyalgia, which was autoimmune, then, candida, and then from the simple migraine to the most degenerative cancer or AIDS. Macrobiotics claim to work with it and put it in remission. So it was fascinating that someone could actually look at food like that. And then it also talked about the energy of foods, which is something that was very much resonating with what I was doing at the time. I was doing Vipassana meditation, so I knew what energy was, and I knew what universal energy was. And this was one system that was saying, look, you can clean up your meridian lines, and you can clean up your nadis. And, it was talking about the Indian chakra system, if some of you are aware of the chakras. So it was very fascinating for me, and I decided that, okay, I'm going to take this up. That's how I came to it, and that's how I was very passionate about studying about it. And unfortunately, in those days, I wasn't a chef. I'm a chef today. So I wasn't being able to grapple with my father's taste buds, because he had very strong taste buds, and I was just learning how to, work around him. And he gave the diet up. He wanted to, he said, look, I'm happy going. I just want to eat what I want to eat. But after he left, I decided to pursue it further and went and then did my course for 4 years in America. So coming back to the diet, when we look at food as medicine, food is really powerful. So the same food that you're eating every day, which has the capacity to cause a cell to get dysfunctional, okay, or cause aberrations in the body, is the same food that can keep you healthy. It's the same food that we use to cure a cancer, because it can release the chemicals to vaporize cancer. All right. It's the same food that can make you, as my mentor, Mona Schwartz said, chase your dream, give you the moods that you need, give you the concentration and focus that you need, power through your day. So it's only food that you're putting in. If you see your life and you see what is constant in your life, it's the food that you eat and the drinks that you're having every single day that you put through this mouth. And Kali used to bite her tongue. And if you know that the sense door of the food, the tongue, is one of the most temptuous and temptation oriented taste. When you encounter something very nice, it's very difficult to get over that, right? So your food becomes whatever you put in your body from morning to night has the capacity to actually heal you, because it comes from the earth, and it has the capacity to also heal you, apart from the other stuff that you use, like adaptogens out there, like you'll use a curcumin, or you'll use a holy basil, or you'll use giloy, or something in our Indian system, or the Western Chinese medicine, the Chinese medicine system. The food has the ability to give you the disease and cure the disease. Okay. Now, a lot of people out there don't look at their food like that. We kind of think we're going to put something into our mouth and it's going to just, a lot of people become habitual eaters. So they're just eating for the sake of eating. Okay. They're not mindful about what they're eating. So what happens is, when you're doing that and you're focusing on foods which are causing what we call a breakdown of the gut. Now, how does that happen? Apart from the big organs that that your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your spleen, pancreas, and stomach, you also have another forgotten organ, which are the microorganisms in your body. Okay. these, like today we're talking about a virus, all right? It's a microorganism. Similarly, we have a lot of microorganisms within us, which outnumber our cells. So we are more microorganisms than cells, okay? We have them on our body, we have them in our body, all right? And the largest colony that houses these microorganisms is what we call the gut. And as Taruna said, it starts at the mouth. It's a tube that goes into your body and it's squished in your body and then it ends at the back, all right? Now, this particular tube, as we call it, becomes a perfect colony or a sewage system for these microorganisms to thrive. But you have neutral, bad, and good. You have all three, all right? And all three are meant to be in harmony and balance with each other to thrive and to give you what we call a good, strong gut, a good, strong ecosystem. And they run, I would say, I look at them like the women have their hormones and men have their hormones, which are messengers, which are sending, which are chemical messengers in the body. In the same way, your gut microbes, okay, are also a parallel system that are governing everything from weight gain, weight loss, appetite, mood swings. So they are also a system in themselves that are communicating with every organ of yours, and they have their own way of working with enzymes to give you radiant health, as we call it. Now the thing is that in India, every system has a traditional diet plan, all right? Indians have a beautiful traditional diet plan. But what messed it up for us was the fact that we started going into an era where we started eating a lot more from outside and focusing very less on foods that were traditional. So we lost eating traditionally. We lost eating locally. We lost eating seasonally. We lost eating and adapting to our climate, all right? So what starts happening is, what goes wrong with this lovely ecosystem in your gut is the fact that you start eating foods, what we call are pro-inflammatory foods. We've all heard the buzzword today. Inflammation is a huge word out there. And if you think of inflammation, if you close your eyes and you think, okay, what is inflammation? You're thinking of something which is red, raw, inflamed, swollen. This is what comes to my mind, all right? So if you close your eyes and you think about inflammation, when we say there's inflammation within you, it's the same thing, that if you are eating foods which are not helping your system, you're going to eventually get inflamed. How does that happen? All right. You take in your food, it goes into your system. All right. Over time, the kind of foods that you're eating, and I'm going to highlight those foods, start releasing. There's a certain digestion process that happens. And when the digestion process happens and you're eating the wrong kind of foods, the digestion process will throw up certain toxins. Okay, in the Ayurvedic system, we call it ama. In the Western system, we call it ash. And when these certain toxins are released, your intestinal lining, which is literally what we call your immune barrier, which is supposed to be a little permeable, but not that permeable, starts loosening up and it gets more permeable. So over time, what happens is that pathogens and undigested food material starts seeping through the intestinal lining into your bloodstream, and then it starts setting up a stage for things to happen. That's the first thing that happens, all right? And when I say setting things to happen is, inflammation starts happening, insulin imbalance starts happening. We've all heard that PCO, we've heard of enough PCOS floating around. PCOS is basically when girls are getting into anovulatory cycles. They don't get their periods anymore. And then the hormones get pushed and their male hormones get pushed. So they're getting excessive hair or they're getting acne. So what starts happening is an acidic system starts coming into place. So your pH goes off. pH is the, acid alkaline balance in the blood goes off and you start getting more acidic. Now, when your blood condition gets more acidic, and I'm going to highlight the foods that do it, then what starts happening is the first thing that gets affected is your hormones, because your hormones can't thrive in that acidic environment. All right. So women start getting things like excessive estrogen, less testosterone in men, hormonal issues start happening. If that starts happening, it pushes your insulin levels. So metabolic disorders, pre-diabetes starts happening. The thyroid goes off because of various factors, stress factors. So you create a situation for anything to happen. Now, what are these foods? The foods that Indians started going wrong with, and why I refer to India is because I'd like to put it in the Indian context, is sugar is the biggest culprit, all right? And we're not just getting sugar from white sugar, we're getting sugar from a lot of other sources. So anything processed or refined that's coming in today, packaged foods, has plenty of hidden sugars, all right? Sodas, colas, burgers, breads, maida, anything with refined flour has plenty of sugar coming in. Then dairy. Now, dairy is a controversy because a lot of people in India love their dairy. All right. So, but the moment I say dairy, it becomes like you're opening a can of worms. But dairy is not the same dairy that you were getting years and years and years ago. Today's dairy is changed. If you go and see how the cows are treated, the growth hormones that are given to the cows, you're getting in all of that. When you're ingesting that food in, you're taking in that hormones also, and that's going and upsetting the rhythm also. All right. Plenty of studies out there to prove how dairy initiates hormone dependent cancers. All right. Today you see a lot of breast cancers happening. All right. More Indian women are getting breast cancers than before, and the culprit actually is sugar and dairy. All right. So dairy, sugar, white refined flour, every packaged food has high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is a cheaper version of a sugar. It promotes cravings, it drives weight. So that's going on. Then you're having, a lot of people have a lot of meat and a lot of animal protein in their diets. They don't know how to balance it out. You can eat animal protein if you want to eat it, but you should know how to make balance with it. All right. A lot of people in India are dependent on their coffees and teas, especially tea. Indians love their chai, and our chai is made in a very specific way. It's boiled and boiled and boiled, and all that caffeine that's coming into your system, and a lot of people are having too much of it. A lot of people have 4 cups a day. All right. And then a lot of it is with sugar and with tea. So that kind of, for Indians, is worsening the whole thing. Indians are very dependent on their dairy. Indians are very dependent on their sugar. Indians love their snacks and their farsan. That evening time when you want to eat something off the shelf, which is khasta, and you don't know what it's cooked in, and there's a lot of trans fats coming in, you don't know what kind of oils they're using. One of the other things that is worsening it for us is 2 things which Indians use every day: oil, refined oil, and salt. Now, those are the 2 things we use every single day for our cooking: refined oil and salt, right? Refined oil is actually pro-inflammatory. If you're using a cold pressed oil, you're better. And I'm going to get into the foods that also cause balance, but I'm talking about the foods which cause an imbalance. So your salt, your table salt is really doing nothing for you. All right. It's full of sodium chloride. It's been stripped of all the minerals. So when you talk about salt, you have to talk about rock salt, sea salt, Himalayan pink salt, which has retained its minerals and which is not stripped and refined. All right.
And then, Shonali, I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, hi. So we talk about dairy, right?
Yeah.
Like especially like in Indian households, like I've grown up drinking doodh, like Bournvita. It's like something that you have to have, right? But what about let's say ginger tea? Like we've heard that it's anti-inflammatory, like it's supposed to help you, like
adrak chai. The milk and the sugar?
I mean, sure, yeah. But like generally, like if I put like this much milk, for example.
No, so I don't believe
does that?
No, I don't believe in milk. So if you're talking about dairy, it goes off the charts because the kind of dairy that you're getting today is not the same dairy that you were getting. Like you don't know your cow. You don't know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
You don't know how the cows are kept. You don't know how many growth hormones they're getting. You don't know how infected their udders are to see the amount of pus that's coming into your milk. And dairy has something called casein in it, which is a protein which doesn't at all assimilate in your system. All right. So when it comes to women and women's health and men's health, because I deal with diseases and I deal with very debilitating diseases, for me, dairy goes off the table. All right.
Okay. But because so from personal,
if you want to keep it in, then know where it's coming from and have a full fat dairy. Don't try to,
Okay.
have skim milk or other low fat. Have full fat, know where it's coming from. Know the cow.
Why not the skim milk part? Can I
Because
know? Because I'm someone who has the.
it's stripped off everything. It's like having dishwater.
Okay.
So why would you have that?
Okay.
It's not
Okay.
gone.
And what about like nut milks?
Nut milks are fine. Nut
Okay.
milk is not dairy. Nut milk is
Okay, so that's fine.
yeah. So I'll be coming to that when I say eat these foods. Right now I'm talking about
Mm-hmm.
foods which go off. Foods which you should look
Okay.
at taking off. What is causing a acidic blood condition? Why do we talk about
Mm-hmm.
food as medicine? Because there are certain foods out there which are causing an imbalance in blood structure. And
Yeah.
sugar and dairy and high fructose corn syrup and processed and packaged and everything refined coming in is not exactly giving you a good kosher meal system, all right? Pushing yourself with coffees and stimulants, like you're pushing yourself with too much coffee, too much tea, sodas, colas, or
Mm-hmm.
you're pushing yourself with alcohol, that glass of wine that you're over pushing in the evenings. That can also cause an imbalance, because then what you're doing is you're weakening your adrenal glands, which is your kidneys. So your kidneys go into a depletion mode, and therefore then you're pushing against energy. You don't have energy. All right.
Okay. What about like apple cider vinegar, which people
So
say
I'll
you
get
can
into
drink?
all that. If you let me, you bring that up
Okay.
in questioning, I'll get into all that. I just want to
Mm-hmm.
layer the what is bad and what is good, so
Okay.
we have an idea, and then we can get into specifics like apple cider vinegar and all.
Okay.
Right? So yeah, so the pro-inflammatory foods, all right, going down the list, we're talking about people who are on yo-yo diet. So people who lose their good carbs, because this whole myth about let's cut back the carbs, all right? So what's happening is then they are losing the high fiber coming in from the brown rice or the millet, all right? Because when they take off the carbs, they take it off completely. So all these keto diets that are at play right now, which are pushing high fat, high protein, all right? It's okay for a while, but long term, no, all right? Then you're going into deprivation of protein, carbohydrate, and fat, which is also causing problems, all right? And then there are certain lifestyle habits like overeating, eating late at night, skipping your meals, skipping your breakfast. Indians have this terrible habit, which is a part of our culture. We cook in a lot of high heat. So most of our kitchens use refined oils, which is pro-inflammatory, and then we're cooking them on a high flame. If we are not in the kitchen and our cooks are cooking, they're used to making it high because they feel if they make it high, it's actually going to help cook better, but it's actually breaking down that oil and causing rancid oil to get into your system, and then oxidation happens, and then all this free radical damage is going on, all right? So what happens is a couple of things are going on. When you're consuming all these foods on one hand, and when you're, trying to yet go on a diet and yet balance your body, what's happening is you're weakening your gut on one hand. So on one hand, there's this imbalance in the gut, dysbiosis, breakdown of the gut that's happening. And on the other hand, you're wondering, what am I doing wrong? I'm eating right. I'm putting in that apple cider vinegar in the morning, or I'm having my home warm water, or someone's told me this is good for me, but you're not focusing on cutting out all of this. Okay, you're just focusing on adding this one thing to help you along, and then this thing doesn't work anymore. As you grow older, as women get older and they're going more perimenopausal or whatever, and PMS starts happening and all of that, the condition gets worse, because what's happened is that when you get a PCOS, you're already in a state of free estrogen floating around in your system. Okay, estrogen, which was supposed to be excreted out of your system, is now floating around because you're not getting your period anymore. So all this stuff starts happening. So what I'm seeing in my experience is that a lot of women are getting set up in their younger years for things to happen in their future years. All right. So what is the way out? All right. Now, I always believe here, and I've covered this in both my books, is there's a chart which I explain, because what makes my approach so unique. Okay. Macrobiotics talks about balance, and unfortunately the time we have today is not enough to discuss what that means, but I can lay the thought process out. We talk about foods that cause energy to rise, and we talk about foods that bring down your energy, not in a negative way, but foods that have two elements to them. So if you look at the universe and you're looking at one peaceful world and one energy, it splits into what we call feminine and male. We all understand that very well. We know, okay, feminine is yin and male is yang energy. The way the way it comes, the system comes. the way we describe it. So we look at, in our parlance of things, in our scheme of things, we are trained to diagnose you looking at these two energies. We are trained to look at foods with these two energies. We are trained to look at cooking styles with these two energies. That's why we can go into a condition, a health condition, and then say, okay, these are the two energies we are working with. How will we treat this energy? Is this energy yin? Is this energy yang? What are the foods they've used to abuse it? So that's how I work. But to just make it simplistic for you, if you look at foods, you're looking at sugar and you're looking at dairy and you're looking at, let's say, cheese, and you're looking at spices, which when you take in, they cause the energy to rise upward. So you're looking at those foods coming on, let's say, left-hand side. We call it the yin foods. And if you're looking at meat, which causes heat in the body and which causes contraction in the body and which causes energy to go down, then you're looking at salt in the same spectrum, because salt also causes the energy to contract. Okay. Refined oils comes under this side, on the sides of the sugars, because it causes the energy to rise. Okay. But eggs, if someone's having eggs, it comes on the opposite side, because eggs causes the energy to go down. Now, the way I like explaining this is that most people in their day are going between these two energies in their food groups. They are either consuming a lot of sugar, a lot of dairy, then they are mixing it up with a little bit of eggs, and then they are having whatever. They are having their little grain, because Indians are very used to having their rice and their roti. So that comes under a bit of good yang energy. But a major bulk of the way they eat is between these two extremes in the day. Now what happens is, every sugar looks to balance the other. Every food balances with the other food. So if you have a lot of sugar, so I'm talking about anything above 1 teaspoon or half a teaspoon, then you're going to look for the opposite food to balance it out. If you have, like, for example, a person who has too much sugar will look towards balancing it out with either a cup of, a cup of coffee, or they will look to balance it out with having a salt. If a person has too much salt, then they are looking to balancing it out with a sweet. If a person has too much meat, then they are looking to balancing it out with too much alcohol or sugar. That's why you see a lot of meat eaters drink a lot. All right. So everybody is looking to seek balance. And we're running between these two polarities all through the day. All right. The idea is, what do we include to make for balance? So to make balance, we go back to the Indian traditional plate, which is, you have a whole grain in your diet. So Indians have rice and roti. So instead of white rice, you start including red rice, brown rice, which again comes under that right-hand side yang food spectrum. You introduce lentils and legumes for those who are vegetarian. And for those who are non-vegetarian, you let them have their fish and their whatever they eat, with making balance with vegetables. Because like I explained, meats is a very contracted food. So you'll need a little bit of the vegetables to open the person up to balance it out. Okay, so you use vegetables, you use your good fats. So you're using cold pressed oils to cook. You're looking at all the foods with good fats. You're looking at nuts, seeds, avocado, all the good things that are bringing you the good fats. All right. Someone who's an egg eater can think of having egg, but you're looking at making balance of the egg with maybe, because egg is very, very, very contracted. So someone who's eating egg, it's very contracted. So you're going to look to balance it out with spices, because Indians have a lot of spices. So having a little bit of something, like a ketchup with spice. I'm not talking about bottled ketchup. I'm talking about homemade ketchup, which has spices, or looking at including a little bit of a greens juice, which is again making expansive energy to balance it out. So you're balancing that egg consumption out. So you're looking at not only introducing it into your system because you want it, but you're looking to make balance with something else. Okay. So you're focusing on fruits, because Indians, we do like our fruits. We have it in abundance. You're looking at introducing fruits. And another big component that gets missed out in Indian diets is we depend on our yogurt to give us our lactobacilli or give us our fermented foods. All right. And unfortunately, because we keep hammering it in that dairy is not good, dairy is not good, dairy is not good because of what dairy does to you, then you look at bringing in a component called fermented foods. Okay. Now, what are these fermented foods? You're looking at introducing, because your good gut bacteria come in and go out every day. They are not staying there. It's the bad that will float around and stay there. The good will come in and leave, come in and leave. So every day you're supposed to introduce a preparation, okay, that you make or that someone does. Like, your grandmother used to make pickles in apple cider in vinegar. So you take apple cider vinegar, chop up some vegetables, put it in your apple cider vinegar, initiates the fermentation process, leave it out for 2 days, and that product gets fermented. If you grate a vegetable and you put salt in it and you leave it for an hour, it's got a chance to breathe with the environment and get good microorganisms. And that 1 hour pickle, that 1 hour press with the salt becomes a preparation, fermented preparation, which you can introduce. In the same way, we are hearing big words in the market now. Sauerkraut, we are hearing kefir, we are hearing kimchi, we are hearing all these big fermented words. A lot of it is covered in my book. So you start looking, kanji in the North Indians, the beetroot and carrot drink that we make is a fermented drink, okay? It's fermented for a 3-day period. So you're looking at bringing in fermentation, because fermentation is what brings in the good gut bacteria, and it helps to now re-inoculate your gut, which was getting weak, to now start getting stronger. So for good, yeah.
Yeah. So again, going back to the strengthening of the gut.
Yeah.
You have some tailor-made recipes for that. One would be the detoxification of the gut.
Yeah.
I think as per your book and as your thoughts also, the trouble start because the gut is unhealthy, or
Yes.
a lot of toxins which have
Yes.
remained in the whole gut.
Yeah.
So I think everybody might be interested in knowing how do we cleanse the gut. You have mentioned some of the foods that do clean up the gut. Apple cider vinegar is one of them.
No. So I don't believe that apple cider vinegar actually only cleans up the gut. The gut is cleansed with fiber foods.
Yeah.
And fiber foods, high fiber foods are coming from your whole grain, your vegetables, your fruit, your lentils and legumes, and your nuts and seeds. So if you're going to have plenty of that in your body, your gut fiber, the residual fiber starts feeding the gut bacteria. So that's a cleanser number 1. All right. There's no one cleanser. You have to first take out all the pro-inflammatory foods that I told you and introduce these foods. Then you start upping it with fermented foods. All right. So the fermented foods that come in are highlighted in my book, The Detox Diet, where I've also given you recipes. Okay. How do you make these fermented foods? How do you cultivate good gut bacteria coming in? How do you,
So fermented foods is a must, is a necessity?
It's a necessity.
It's a necessity.
It's a necessity. Because Indian guts try to rely only on yogurt. We rely only on yogurt as our fermented food, but yogurt doesn't cut it. Okay, yogurt doesn't repair our gut. We can take it, but we need to get something called lactic acid bacteria fermentation, which is done with vegetables. And I've given a lot of recipes in my Detox Diet book, which teaches you how to ferment with the right bacteria so you can re-inoculate your gut.
So fermentation fermentation, like in what I've read and like I've been noticing, I think there's sort of a myth where it's like, oh, there's a lot of acid that goes when you ferment something like kombucha, which is very acidic in the sense of when you drink it. So is that technically like how does that help you?
It's a myth and it's wrong what they are telling you, whoever's told you that. Fermentation has 2 connotations to it. One is fermentation that is off. So let's say you ferment a dosa and the batter gets over fermented and then it runs into 2 days and you forget about it. So that batter over ferments and gets mold in it. That's also fermentation because there's microorganisms you're inviting into the batter, right? Kombucha is fermented with a culture, with a SCOBY. It's a colony of small microbes that are put together, and a tea is made out of it. And you ferment it with a little bit of sugar, and the culture eats up your sugar and ferments the tea and gives you plenty of enzymes in the tea. What it does is also it leaves a bit of residual sugar. So if you're going to have kombucha, then you should be aware that a little sugar would come in. But if you're a person who's consuming cold drinks or having other stuff with sugar, this is probably a better way of consuming your sugar. So there is a if you're talking about the myth of fermented foods, the myth comes in because people don't know how to do it right, and people don't know the difference between something which is wrong, which ferments, because ferments is working with microorganisms in the environment. And when you overdo things, like if you leave something on your kitchen counter, a vegetable preparation, and you forget about it, after 3 days it'll get green, right? That's an over fermentation that's happened. So that's when fermentation goes wrong. But if you, like South Indians have their dosa and idli, all right?
Mm-hmm.
You ferment it right, that's actually good fermentation. What the South Indians are doing with dosa and idli is also fermentation. They're leaving it overnight and then they're using the batter the next day. So you've this thing, unfortunately, heat destroys a lot of the bacteria that you've cultivated. So while the batter has a little bit of the bacteria, when you're fermenting, when you're heating the idli up or you're making the dosa, that you don't have the bacteria there the way you'd like it to be, but it's yet fermented. Okay. I'm talking about going a step further. I'm talking about like how you, when you make kanji, you're making it out of carrot or beetroots and you're putting water in it and you're fermenting it for 3 days. That's the typical way of making a kanji. Okay. When you've made it for 3 days, that liquid gets fermented enough for you to now start putting it in the fridge and having it every single day. Okay, as a probiotic beverage, which is made with Indian spices and salt. All right. Now, if you leave that out for 4, 5, 6, 7 days, it's going to grow mold. Right? That's when fermentation goes awry. It goes off. So there's a myth in the market about what is acidic, what is not acidic, what is fermented. Now, why did people start having apple cider vinegar? Because apple cider vinegar is a fermented beverage. All right. And it's got enough of bacteria, good gut bacteria in it. So people in the Indian diaspora or the Western diaspora who were not getting enough fermentation started including a shot in the day, because when they included it in the day, they got the required bacteria and, you know, they were happy and it did things to them because it started working its magic. It used to go in there, it would digest things. Some people who didn't lose weight saw that they were losing weight. Some people who wanted good skin started seeing that my skin is going because there was good gut bacteria suddenly coming into your diet, which you never had before, right? So apple cider vinegar became the panacea of health, but that's not enough, okay? And not everybody can take an apple cider vinegar because it's astringent in nature. So while you may be able to take it, I may not be able to take it, all right? But I may still be able to work with a lot of other ferments and include them in the day, because Indians don't include fermentation in their diets at all. Okay. They sometimes if they have their dahi, they think ki, oh, we are having our dahi, you know, achhi cheez hai, pet ko acha rakhta hai, kind of a thing, and they go, that's their life. And we still do a lot of the pro-inflammatory foods that I've highlighted. All right. And we're still not doing fermentation, but we're doing, okay, a lot of people don't know they are insensitive to gluten. A lot of people don't know in India. Now, it's not necessary you are insensitive to it or you have a gluten intolerance, but we have a lot of atta in our diets. When we have our chapatis, a lot of us are having atta-based chapatis. In the sense of gehu ka atta. I'm not talking about jawar, I'm not talking about millet. Now we started looking at the other millets, so to say. But a lot of time, Indians are focused on having gehu, wheat, whole wheat. And whole wheat is also creating some issues because whole wheat has gluten in it. It's not to be taken off the charts for everybody, because I digest it very well, being from a North Indian family. I can eat a chapati, whole wheat chapati, but there are a lot of people who cannot digest it. A lot of people with irritable bowel disorders cannot take whole wheat. So we start giving them the other grains, like we give them millet, we give them nachni, jawar, bajra, ragi, all these other grains that are there in the Indian diaspora. And we take them away from white rice and we bring them to a whole grain. Okay, start giving them fiber. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to know, all of this, like, I think even with milk and just like some rice and everything, we talk about like calcium and just, you know, B12 and vitamin D and everything. How, and I think you've said in videos where like popping pills isn't going to be enough, you know, like our body isn't going to exactly absorb all of the vitamins and all the goodness that we would get ideally. So what can we do to like make sure that we absorb
Here's
them
the
much
story
better?
on calcium and vitamin D. It's a myth that you get it from milk. All right.
Okay.
If you think you're getting your calcium from milk, if you do the homework on calcium, you will see that the actual absorbable calcium from milk is 18%.
Okay.
Okay.
That's
The rest of the milk is not absorbed. All right. The calcium is not absorbed from your milk. The way milk digests, it has a way of actually robbing the serum calcium, which is blood calcium, okay, and dumping it back into the system. It doesn't absorb the calcium. Secondly, your, and I'll tell you where you get it from also. Your vitamin D was, why did marketers start fortifying milk with vitamin D? Because way back when they started discovering what vitamin D did for people with rickets. You know what rickets is?
no, I'm not
Children
sure.
who have, people who have bone issues. Rickets is when in the olden days you had deformed bone condition because your bones were weak. So the marketing industry, the dairy industry took the dairy and said, let's fortify it with vitamin D. Because, you know, if we fortify the dairy with vitamin D, then we can sell our dairy. That's how vitamin D started getting fortified in milk. All right. It doesn't take rocket scientists to know that you get your vitamin D from sunshine. All right. And we are deprived in sunshine because we sit in air conditioned homes. Right. The best way your skin can get your vitamin D and make it is if you get 20 minutes of sunshine. Okay. So that's a lifestyle thing that we need to fix. Plus,
is there any specific time where we'll get the most vitamin D or like the best sunshine?
Well, in the mornings, it's about 20 minutes, anytime between 9 and 10.
Okay.
Or even after if you want, and in the afternoons. All right.
So anytime
you're out there is good, as long as you're getting it in bare skin. Secondly, your calcium and vitamin D also comes from, if you're going to eat leafy greens in your diet. All right. Cows have big bones and they only eat grass. Right? Cows have the largest bones and very strong bones. Buffaloes have large bones and they're only eating grass. Right? What is grass? Grass is magnesium, chlorophyll, plenty of vitamin D, plenty of your calcium, plenty of everything coming in. So if you eat your leafy green spectrum of vegetables, and I'm talking about every day, Indians eat leafy greens maybe thrice a week. We include a methi or a palak or something. I'm talking about every single day. So if you're not going to do your leafy greens every day, then you do a wheatgrass or you do something else like a barley grass. We're getting all that in the market now. You do it in water because then at least you're getting a shot of your chlorophyll every day. You know, so you're getting your, calcium and vitamin D and all that absorption is going on. The one thing that I can bring in here is that people who are vegetarian lack vitamin B12 because B12 is coming in from animal food and animal protein. So the fermented foods, what I'm talking about, is the only thing that brings in B12 in vegetarian diets. Okay. So if you're going to include anything fermented, then you're getting your B12. All right. But if you're a vegetarian and you're going to stay off and you're going to stay vegan, then you're not getting your B12. So you need to make sure that fermented foods become important enough to take up so that you're getting a bit of B12, or you're taking your apple cider vinegar, or you're taking something fermented that's going to give you the B12. So that's where B12 goes off, right? Another thing that we do and we make mistakes with is we take a lot of painkillers, we take a lot of antibiotics. We don't, doctors prescribe things and we are very quick to take it. We don't question it. We don't ask ourselves, do we really need to take it? Can we substitute it with something more natural? Antibiotics, painkillers, and cortisons, like anything with anything steroids, is going to destroy your gut like you can't imagine. It goes and kills colonies of gut bacteria. So if anyone's addicted to any kind of pills, or if anyone's taking birth control pills also over a long period of time, then you need to question your relationship with it. Like, it's very easy to pop in something for a headache, but you don't question what it's going to do to your system. Yeah. Or antacids.
You know how you say that, that we should become our own doctor in the sense that use food as a medicine, which you don't really hear, especially right now. do you have any like points that we can that tomorrow, let's say that I can become my own doctor, that I can like make sure that I take care of in my own body, like instead of going to a doctor and being like, oh, I feel so tired because of this, or like
Yeah, so you
my
fix
stomach
what
hurts.
exactly I've told you. You try to fix whatever foods you're eating, which are causing you inflammation in the, I mean, if you're trying to tell me that, if today I ask you, Janvi, are you doing any of the pro-inflammatory foods? What's your answer of the foods that I
No.
highlighted? You just said you're doing dairy in your chai, right? Every
Yeah.
single day, 365 days of the
I
year.
drink a lot of coffee, but yeah.
You drink a lot of coffee. What else are you
Yeah.
doing? Having a lot, some sugar?
I have Yakult.
You have
No, I don't eat sugar at all.
terrible. Yakult is not the right thing. So you're
Really?
already pro-inflammatory. You are already in the spectrum.
Yeah, and I do have acid problems in my stomach.
Yeah, it's not. So you have there. That's a big sign. So your body
Yeah.
has conversations with you, everybody. Your body has lovely conversations with you. Your body will give you acidity. It's a conversation. Your body will give you a headache. It's a conversation. Your body will give you allergy. It's a conversation. Your body will have a cancer. It's the biggest conversation. It's now saying, hey, listen, get up and notice me because I have had a breakdown. Okay. The conversations that your body has with you is the irritations and the ailments that your body is throwing up. And if you don't pay attention to them, you will get into something like an insulin sensitivity, or then it'll start with a little bit of prediabetes, or it'll start with a thyroid. This is conversations that the body is having with you and telling you, hey, listen, pay attention, get all the stuff out, get all this stuff in, start giving me things which are positive so I can react and give you a better life. So that's how you become your own doctor. Okay, start questioning all the stuff that I've told you, which is not going to serve you. Start, if you want to keep it in, then start making balance with it. Then increase the quotient of foods that you're going to be eating in what I've told you, that these are the foods that should work for you. Okay, 2/3 of your plate should be vegetables, 1/3 of your plate should be at least a good protein, 1/3 of your plate should at least be a good solid brown rice, or a, you know, like a grain, whole grain coming in, like something that you're doing at 2 meals a day, at least half a cup of some kind of a whole grain coming in, not a white rice, okay, but something of a nature of a millet or a red rice or a brown rice. And make sure that your lifestyle habits, like a lot of people don't realize that their own lifestyle habits are also causing problems. All right. Your lifestyle is also pushing you. You're habituated to getting up in the morning late and sleeping late. That is a lifestyle problem. You need to fix it. All right. You're habituated to skipping breakfast. It's a lifestyle issue. And what happens with people is these lifestyle issues become a part of their lives. Now it's become a part of their life and they're dealing with a condition, but they're not fixing their, because sleep is very essential. Movement is very essential. These are also things that go into building up a life, right? You've got to move. You've got to give yourself a yoga, a walk, an aerobic exercise, something cardio, or something of a strength training nature, especially for women, because women are over time have something called sarcopenic obesity. They lose muscle mass. Okay. So all those things go hand in hand to contribute to being food as medicine and lifestyle as medicine. You're hearing the buzzwords. When I got introduced, someone said, you know, we're hearing functional medicine and we're hearing integrative medicine, and and the only difference is these are all big buzzwords out there. India already had a system in alternative medicine. We had Ayurveda. Okay, we've had it for eons. It's a very old system. It's 5,000 years old. It comes under alternative medicine. All right. Then you have integrative medicine. That is a term that came about in the 1990s by a US doctor, because now he wanted to integrate all the systems together and offer people a solution with not just Western medicine, but he wanted to make it integrative. So integrative medicine. Functional medicine came about in the 1990s when doctors said, look, we treat disease from the root cause, something Ayurveda has been saying for years. You know, we look at your endocrine system and we look at everything else. And then doctors got together and said, okay, let's develop a model, a functional model, which they called functional medicine, which we can train our doctors with. So the doctors are equipped to handle, dispense advice. All right. Now, in Ayurveda and macrobiotics, we're doing the same thing. We're looking at disease the same way. So it becomes functional, integrative, complementary, alternative. All right. So those buzzwords come under this umbrella. All right. Because you're using food to cure disease. You're using food to keep things down, like psoriasis, or you're using food to help someone with breast cancer keep her meds down, or you're using food to help someone who's got diabetes to keep their sugars under control. So you're just using food because the power of food is amazing. All right. The compounds that each food have, like curcumin is something Indians have always had, but the West has started making it a big product today. Okay, Indians have always, our masala spice box is very anti-inflammatory. Everything that we use in our spice box, whether we're using coriander powder, whether we're using cumin, whether you're using curcumin, these are all anti-inflammatory. All right, this is all going to help, but it's not going to help if you have foods on one hand which you're eating which are debilitating your system, and again eating foods which are strengthening, because the debilitators are pulling you down anyway. So you need to get rid of the debilitators to get good pH, to make good blood condition. It takes 4 months to change blood, and it takes 2 years to change cell structure. Okay. So so basically, I mean, I'm open to questions now. If you want to ask me any questions.
Yeah.
We've overshot our time.
So I think, yeah, I think we'll just move on to, I think, question and answers that anyone has. So I'll just find some questions. There we go. Yes. How do we?
Can I ask one question? Shonali, of course, it was really an eye-opening session, and so many. My concluding thoughts on this is based on your quote that you mentioned somewhere: learn the power of macrobiotics, become your own food doctor. So using food as medicine, can you please give us in a nutshell by sharing all your secrets in at least 5 points on how to become a food doctor?
One is you give up sugar. You want to be your own food doctor. That's the first thing. 2 is you give up dairy. Okay. So let's keep, and so sugar means all kinds. I'm talking about even refined flour. If you can get rid of those 2 things, at least in the interim, you're already a step above everything else. All right. 3 is include a whole grain every day. By whole grain, I mean a brown rice or a millet. Okay, by whole grain, I mean a whole wheat also, but I don't mean white rice. Okay, brown rice, millet, red rice, the other versions of brown rice that come into play. So include it at one meal in the day because it's got 70 anti-aging antioxidants. Okay, and it's a complete food in itself, and it balances your sugars for 8 hours of the day. So millet and brown rice become very important. Okay. 3 is make sure that you're doing a good source of protein, whether you're doing plant-based protein, which is easily absorbable, or you're doing a meat-based protein, like you're doing fish or you're doing something else, then balance it out with greens. Greens become very important because in your vegetable component, 2/3 of have at least 3 to 4 colored vegetables a day, because that's beta carotene coming in and that's antioxidants coming in. And make sure leafy greens becomes a daily thing in your life. Okay, like you're doing some form of leafy greens, whether you're doing a shot of wheatgrass juice, whether you're doing a shot of spirulina, whether you're doing leafy greens as a vegetable. Leafy greens has to come into your diet every day. And the last and the most important is a fermented food, at least in 2 meals a day, or at least twice a day. Okay, that is your glue. Fermented foods holds everything together. So those are my secrets. Actually, I've got nothing esoteric that I'm doing, nothing esoteric that I'm eating. Those are my secrets. That's how I live my life, and I make sure these things are in my diet every day.
What is the fermented food that you suggest out of all the options that you've given?
So the easiest thing to start with, the easiest thing to make and start with is a good kanji as a probiotic beverage. Recipes, plenty of recipes online for it, plenty of recipes on YouTube for it. That's the easiest thing to start with and the least invasive on the system initially, because sometimes fermented foods take a little time to get used to. Okay. The other easiest thing to start with is also a preparation made in apple cider vinegar. You put like any vegetable you want, ginger, garlic, or you take turmeric, or you take carrots in apple cider vinegar and do a 3-day ferment. Let it sit out for 3 days with a little, either you cover it with a bottle, with a, with a lid, or you tie it up with a muslin cloth for 3 days. Now, once you put it in the fridge, that is also fermented. You don't want to use apple cider vinegar, use salted water. Use a brine and put your, you can cut cucumbers or you can cut radish, put it in brine, submerge it in the saltwater brine and keep it out for 2 days. It gets cloudy, but it's fermented. So that's an easy way to start.
And the quantity?
1 to 2 sticks at a time. And if you're doing kanji, you can do half a glass to start with and then see how it suits you and then graduate to 1 glass a day. But even half a glass should do it. It gives you enough probiotics to do well.
Do you have it like on an empty stomach or like a full stomach, like after food or before?
Not necessary. You can have the pickle, the quick pickle you can have with your food because it helps digest the food better.
Mm-hmm.
But the kanji can be had at any time. You can do it post food like a digestive. You can do it pre your lunch like a starter. Yeah.
So you said that you can make the kanji and you can store it in the fridge. So how long can we keep the kanji in the fridge?
Stores for about 10 days, 12 days, even longer. Yeah. If you've done a good 3-day ferment, it has to be kept warm. It doesn't have to be kept in the sun. Keep it in a warm spot.
Okay.
This is good enough. And the trick about the kanji is you got to stir it every day with a wooden spoon.
Okay.
And expose it to minimal oxygen, minimal air.
Okay.
Yeah. So just a 3-day ferment and half a glass a day is a good way to start. It's a good way to give yourself a good probiotic every day. You did mention, taking in things and, popping in things to make yourself feel better. But if your gut's not healthy, you're not absorbing anything.
Okay. Also, I think one of Ms. Shobha has a question. She's asking how antacids are harmful and if they are harmful.
Antacids are very harmful because just remember, everything you have is going to go through your liver and your liver is going to have to process it. And antacids over time are not really helping you. It's a temporary solution, right? So you need to, the reason why you're having an antacid also is because either the hydrochloric acid in your stomach is very low or it's very high. So the moment you eat something, it's not being able to go down and digest, and then there's an acid reflux. What happens? It starts coming up. The acid starts coming up. So what you're supposed to do is first, because if you keep having antacid and don't sort the problem from the root, it's going to continue all your life and you'll get used to the antacids. All right. So you're going to weaken your system over time. A lot of people who are addicted to antacids have been addicted to antacids for a very, very long time. All right. What you should do is fix your gut. If you fix your gut, it's very easy to get rid of the antacid. And how do you fix the gut? You do everything I told you in this talk.
Everything you just. Also, I think Mr. Santosh had a question saying instead of sugar, what about jaggery? Like whether it be organic or natural?
Unprocessed sugar. Jaggery is unprocessed sugar. It's sugar only.
Okay.
Same thing. What is sugar doing?
So it makes no difference.
No difference. You can do it as a luxury. You want to do it once or twice, once in a month, twice in a month in a laddu or something like that, where you're not using a stevia to sweeten it, or you're not using even dried fruits have a lot of sugar. So again, it's a luxury food.
Really?
But if you're going to do it every single day because you're used to having your sugar every day, then that doesn't work.
What if like sugar is also looked at, like if you're feeling weak or something, you have like Nimbu Pani with sugar in it, or you will have like khajur, which will give you enough sugar and energy.
So what is you have Nimbu Pani with sugar? It's just a myth, because sugar gets your energy up, it hits your brain faster, right? So I can understand if you give it to a diabetic who's got hypoglycemia because she's fainting and she needs, so the first thing they give her is something sugary to get her sugars up. But if you're going to use it as an excuse, okay, whenever I feel low in energy, I'll have a little sugar. You're getting your sugar in. Better to take a date.
Okay. And Miss Dolly had a question saying, is baking soda good to use in food?
Not
Or
really.
is that harmful?
Not really. If it's not much, it won't do you any harm. But for people who have digestive issues,
Okay.
baking soda doesn't work. Okay. So if you
Okay.
want to use it as a for sometimes, like occasionally, because you need to make things rise, that's why baking soda is used. Or they use it in dhokla sometimes, or they use it in a preparation. As long as it's not every day,
Yeah.
because someone with a digestive issue will have some issue with baking soda.
I have a question, if I may ask. What about giving the kind of foods to give to your children? Can we give apple cider vinegar to children?
Yeah, you can give apple cider vinegar to children. It won't cause any problems, but see if they take it, because a lot of kids don't want to take that astringent apple cider vinegar.
So what is the alternate for them, for us to give it to them to make it a routine? Because as you said, and as I have also heard a lot about Yakult not being right, what else can we give? You know, one thing that we can introduce to their diet, that's very important for us to know.
Let's say you made, there's a preparation that I don't know how you're going to get this, but you'll have to figure it out. There's a preparation called sauerkraut. There's a sauerkraut.
Kraut.
Yeah, it's made with cabbage. It's a vegetable preparation. It's fermented for almost 15 days. All right. There's a recipe in my book, The Detox Diet, and there's a recipe on my IGTV page, on my Instagram page.
Okay.
Or there you go online. You'll get the recipe online. Let's say you make a batch, okay? And now you start camouflaging bits of it in their food. You don't tell them it's there, but you start putting it in things which you don't heat up. You know, so you make a pulao, you put it on the top. You cut it up into bits, you put it on the top. Let's say you make a, like you give them it's salted. It's a salted preparation. So what you can do is you can wash it. It'll still retain its bacteria. Don't worry about that. And you can blend it into a drink that they have. And they will not find out. Because I'm on the board of 2 schools. So we are doing this for the kindergarten section in one school. We are blending it in their mixed milkshakes and they have no idea.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Those
much.
guys didn't want to go off milk. So I had to keep the milk in, but I'm sitting in their milk. So you can wash it because it is salty. You know, if you make wraps, for them, you can put it in their roti wraps.
Going to be able to reduce one man.
Yeah. Good.
I think this is the
I hope
sorry. This is the last. I have one last question before Kiran, you can take over. So
also,
recently I read an article.
Rupa has a question. She's muted right now.
Oh, I have not seen it.
Yeah, I can see Rupa there. I don't know if she has a question.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, Rupa.
Yeah. There are 2 questions.
Sure.
One is how safe are whey proteins?
Not safe at all.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to confirm.
Yeah. Load up your kidneys over time.
Exactly. Okay. Second question is the sprouts that we have, does it have B12?
Yes.
Is that a source also?
Yes, because it's been sprouted, right?
Right.
So that process gives you the B12.
B12?
Yes.
Third question, it's not funny, but I'm asking, is wine good for you?
Sure. Wine is good for you if you are of good health condition and you can take it and there's nothing interfering with your health or anything and you don't want to fix anything. Wine is fine. Just remember that alcohol, any consumption over about 2 to 3 glasses a week is considered to be over the limit, but it's okay if you're of good health condition.
No, I'm talking about in the angle of probiotics.
No.
Is it? It's
wine
not
is not a probiotic.
It's not a probiotic. Okay, because it's got
wine
sugar.
Is wine. Not fermented, but not a probiotic.
Good aged cheese with it. Rupa, good aged cheese with it.
Aged cheese, yeah, good.
Yes. Thank you.
Welcome, Rupa.
I just wish to ask, is stevia a good alternative to sugar?
Stevia is a great alternative, Yogita, but the thing is that stevia has a terrible aftertaste.
Yeah.
So anything you want to make with stevia is going to give you that aftertaste. What I do is I pulp a lot of it. Let's say I want to make something baked. Then I soak my figs and then I blend it. or I soak dates, and then I'll blend it and I'll use that as my sweetener. Because anyway, I'm not the kind who likes the too much of sweet, right? Or then I use applesauce in bakes. You know, so I don't like stevia because I just think stevia gives a terrible aftertaste.
So what is a good alternative to sugar? As you said, the figs
Coconut
and
sugar is
apples.
in the market now. So you can
Right.
use coconut sugar, but not too much of it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Shonali and Janvi, for today's informative session.
Thank you.
I'm sure after today's session, we're going to look at food completely differently and take our gut health more seriously. We have also understood how our plate should look with the right proportions of veg, proteins, and whole grains. And as Ms. Rupa asked about the wine, I wish it was a probiotic, and we were easily available in Ahmedabad as well as a probiotic, if nothing else.
Yeah.
Yes, and before we end today's session, I would like to thank our sponsors, Madhuban Resort and Spa, Phoenix Creation Simplified, Satyanar Jadia and Sons, Sanket India Anand, our IT partners EITL, our designer and print partners Akash Printing and Stationery, and our PR team TVM Communications. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all our members who were a part of this webinar, and thank you once again, Shonali and Janvi.
Thank you so much for having me, everybody.
Stay safe, stay healthy.
And I think we have a gift for you for Shonali. Can you, Chitra? Can you please? Yes.
Oh wow!
So Shonali, this is a stay for anywhere from 2 to 5 days, 3 days, whatever you want. Come and stay with us at Madhuban. I think you saw the advertisement in the beginning of the program, and we
Is it
welcome
in
you.
Ahmedabad proper?
It's no, it's between Baroda and Ahmedabad in a place called Anand, where Amul Dairy is.
Okay.
And easily accessible from Baroda, 35 minutes, from Ahmedabad, 1 hour, 15 minutes.
Okay, lovely.
Yeah.
That side I'll come.
Yeah, you don't worry about that. Once you decide, we'll come and pick you up at either one of the airports.
Okay.
And if you're in Mumbai, you can drive down 6 hours. So not bad at all.
Okay, great.
All right. So that's great. And same for you, Janvi. Thank you so much for being the
Thank you.
And so we have
No problem.
a stay for you also at Madhuban. Thank you.
Oh, I think my Wi-Fi.
Sure. And I think because I'm not present for the fishball, gift for you also for a draw for
Thank you.
winners. They have
Okay,
done it
thank
over
you.
there, and I think we have a winner. Sorry, it is. Let me see again. Shalini Garg. Shalini Garg, please identify yourself. This is a gift for you to be spent at Madhuban also. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you again, Shonali.
Thank you so much.
All the members.
Thank you, Shonali. It was nice meeting you.
Thanks, Jan.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you, Nandita, for.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Lovely session.
Right.
Thank you.
Excellent session today.